The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
To a MAGA conservative movie. We're just trying to represent the values that Snow White is based in, the timeless values that we all loved growing up, that are sadly...
But it's hard. And it's lonely. It's very lonely. I just know that if that loneliness can exist, so can other things, and I will be okay.
Many generations have a special place in their hearts for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But when Disney announced a live-action remake of this timeless story, fans were shocked by some of the creative choices. It appears that as a result of these choices, fans are now turning to the Daily Wire, who have decided to create their own accurate version of the original classic, which has allegedly made Rachel Zegler. Without a doubt, as Rachel Zegler's casting as Snow White was revealed, fans were incensed to learn that Disney was casting a Latina actress to play the iconic Snow White. This decision has sparked contentious debates, especially among those who believe that the original story's German roots should have been preserved while diversity in casting is frequently celebrated. Not only did Rachel draw Drew's attention, but other fans feel that this particular story, which has fairy tale origins strongly ingrained in European folklore, should have stayed more culturally genuine. She decided to criticize the original 1937 movie. In interviews, Zegler openly criticized the classic Snow White, calling it creepy and stalkerish, especially referring to the relationship between Snow White and Prince Charming. She even hinted that the new film would disregard the traditional true love's kiss storyline, as she wanted it to shift towards. In recent years, the portrayal of female characters in media has been evolving, with creators reimagining classic characters to align with more feminist ideals. This shift often sparks passionate discussions among fans as they grapple with the balance between honoring beloved traditions and embracing progress. A prime example of this is the upcoming live-action adaptation of Snow White, which has received both praise and backlash for its bold reimagining of the iconic princess. Gone is the dreamy young girl pining for true love and waiting for a prince to rescue her. In this version, Snow White isn't just hoping for a fairy tale romance, she's striving to become a leader, a woman driven by ambition, bravery, and the lessons imparted by her late father. He encouraged her to be fearless, fair, and bold, shaping her into someone destined to lead. The emphasis is no longer on love as her ultimate goal, but on power and self-actualization. This shift was a deliberate choice, a reflection of a new era where women in media are increasingly being portrayed as self-sufficient, courageous, and powerful in their own right. While this version of Snow White aligns with the feminist push for female characters who take charge of their destinies, the decision to revamp such an iconic figure has generated mixed reactions from fans. Many feel that these changes stray too far from the essence of what made the original Snow White a classic. One fan voiced their displeasure bluntly, commenting, "This is no longer Snow White, it's just a different movie using her name." For those who grew up with the 1937 Disney animated classic, where Snow White embodied innocence and optimism, the transformation into a strong, politically driven figure might feel like a jarring departure. Adding to the controversy was Disney's decision to replace the beloved Seven Dwarfs with magical creatures in the live-action adaptation. This change further inflamed fans, many of whom believed that the dwarfs were central to the original story's charm. For some, the dwarfs represented more than just comic relief, they were integral to Snow White's journey, offering protection, friendship, and heart to the narrative. To many fans, removing them felt like stripping away a core element of the beloved story. Some expressed their discontent online, accusing Disney of pandering to modern sensibilities at the expense of the story's magic and emotional depth. The Seven Dwarfs aren't just background characters, one fan tweeted, they're a key part of what made Snow White so enchanting. The backlash reached such a level that Disney was forced to respond, eventually delaying the film's release to reintroduce the dwarfs into the story. However, the decision to bring back these beloved characters didn't fully appease critics. When the new and improved dwarfs were revealed, fans were once again disappointed. The use of full CGI to create these characters failed to capture the spirit of the originals, with many lamenting that the magic of the hand-drawn animations couldn't be replicated in the new format. While the intention might have been to update the characters to fit a more modern aesthetic, the result left many feeling that something essential had been lost in the process. This entire controversy reveals the delicate balancing act that comes with updating classic stories for modern audiences. On one hand, there's a strong desire to reflect current values like the push for stronger, more independent female characters who no longer wait for a prince to solve their problems. On the other hand, there's a deep emotional connection to the stories we grew up with, and any deviation from the original can feel like a betrayal. For some, the feminist twist on Snow White is a breath of fresh air, offering young girls a more empowering role model who leads with her mind and heart rather than being defined by her romantic interests. But for others, the changes feel like a step too far, detracting from the original story's timeless appeal. The challenge for Disney and for filmmakers in general will be to find a way to honor the past while still pushing forward into new territory, one that reflects modern values without alienating the audiences who fell in love with these stories in the first place. Severely condemned by fans for their Uncanny Valley fill, which once again gave the impression that Disney was avoiding assigning the parts to individuals who best reflect them. Many performers who are dwarfed, however, would have cherished the chance to star in such a large-scale movie. Disney Film, in reaction to the current dispute, former Disney designer David Hahn, who is the son of one of the original directors of Snow White, was unrelenting in his criticism, going so far as to label the new movie as an affront to both Disney's original vision and his father's legacy. The Daily Wire, a publication known more for its political commentary than its filmmaking, has announced that it is working on its own version of Snow White with the goal of staying true to the original story as a direct counter to Disney's approach. David then criticized Disney for disrespecting its own history in favor of modernizing the story for today's audience, saying they've lost touch with what made the original so special. However, because of all this backlash, another studio felt inspired to create something that would truly capture the original Snow White spirit and feel. The Daily Wire's first teaser for the movie, which stars Brett Cooper as Snow White, caused a huge amount of people to react positively and joyfully. The Daily Wire version seems to have captured the essence of the original film, leaving fans eager for more. Months ago, Brett expressed her desire to play Snow White, and now that she is getting the chance, we can see how grateful and humble she is, unlike another actor who plays the role. Some are even speculating that the Daily Wire project might even end up outperforming Disney's version, which would be a massive Hollywood twist. However, it's already pretty obvious that audiences prefer studios to honor their blueprint, and seeing the difference in reactions to both trailers, it might send a very clear message to Hollywood if Brett's movie was to do better than Rachel's, unlike Rachel, Brett emphasized. The upcoming Snow White adaptation has been a hotbed of controversy as Disney attempts to walk a fine line between modernizing the classic tale for contemporary audiences while retaining the timeless themes of love, bravery, and innocence that have made the story beloved for generations. These elements, central to the original narrative, are what fans hope to see in any adaptation of a classic. However, Disney has faced a tough challenge in striking this balance, and it appears that the studio is struggling to meet expectations. Rachel Zegler, the actress who played Snow White, is at the center of the controversy. While the film itself has raised eyebrows for its updated approach, Zegler's off-screen interviews have stirred even more tension. In several public appearances and interviews, Zegler has made comments that have not sat well with a significant portion of the fanbase. Some fans feel her remarks show a lack of respect for the original film and the beloved character she's portraying. This growing sentiment has led many to blame her for potentially damaging the film's prospects before it has even hit theaters. One fan bluntly remarked, "Rachel Zegler is single-handedly destroying this movie," a comment that captures the frustrations of a growing faction of critics. Zegler's statements have been perceived by some as dismissive of the original Snow White and its legacy. In one interview, she mentioned how the classic version of Snow White might not resonate with today's audiences, as it portrayed the character as passive and focused on a romantic resolution. Her suggestion that Snow White would be reimagined as a more empowered, independent figure left some fans feeling alienated, particularly those who see the original character's innocent sweetness as essential to the story's charm. These comments have sparked calls for Disney to reevaluate its approach to the film and, in some cases, even reconsider Zegler's involvement in the project. As the backlash has intensified, more people have demanded her removal, believing that her vision of Snow White is out of step with what fans want. This controversy has led to a larger conversation about the tension between updating classic stories to reflect modern values and preserving the core elements that made those stories timeless in the first place. Meanwhile, the debate over which version of Snow White will resonate most with audiences is heating up, with Disney's modernized, feminist reimagining squaring off against a more traditional retelling of the story from the Daily Wire. The latter has positioned itself as a faithful adaptation of the original fairy tale, keeping closely to the narrative that many fans know and love. This version, which avoids the more modern updates Disney is introducing, has gained traction with those who prefer a more classical approach to the story. Ever since Disney released the trailer for their adaptation, the division among fans has only grown sharper. The trailer offered a glimpse of a Snow White, who is no longer defined by her relationship with the prince, but by her journey toward becoming a strong, independent leader. This feminist take on the character may appeal to younger, more progressive audiences, but it has left many longtime fans feeling disconnected. These fans argue that the themes of love, kindness, and innocence, which are at the heart of Snow White, are being overshadowed by a desire to modernize the character to fit current cultural trends. On the other hand, the Daily Wire's trailer for their adaptation has been far better received by audiences who are seeking a more faithful recreation of the original story. Their version retains the traditional elements, with Snow White portrayed as a figure of purity and kindness, reflecting the qualities that made her so endearing in the first place. For fans of the classic, this approach feels like a return to what made Snow White an iconic tale, and the contrast with Disney's adaptation couldn't be starker. Ultimately, the question remains which version of Snow White will win over audiences. Will Disney's feminist reimagining find a new fan base, or will the faithful retelling of the original story prove to be more successful? Disney's decision to update the narrative for modern times while keeping the core themes of love, bravery, and innocence has proven to be a difficult balancing act. The mixed response to Zegler's portrayal and the studio's overall direction for the film has left fans divided and uncertain about what to expect. What is clear is that Snow White continues to be a cultural touchstone, and the debate surrounding the new adaptation reflects broader conversations about how we engage with the stories that have shaped us. As audiences eagerly await the release, they will ultimately decide whether Disney's vision resonates or if the timeless charm of the original story prevails. Fans' criticism of the CGI is especially pertinent because we've seen in the past that a Snow White movie is possible with real sets and effects while still looking beautiful and magical. However, it seems that the attention isn't only on the movies themselves, but also on the stars behind them, as Brett Cooper's version of Snow White has been met with excitement and mostly positive reviews. Not only that, but fans still have serious issues with the way the Disney movie looks visually appealing. Nothing about this screams live-action green screen and Shrek-level CGI. Peter Dinklage at least got his wish to pull the step stool up behind him and ensure 7 little people didn't get some of the most iconic roles in storytelling. It's no secret that Brett's trailer had a better reception than Rachel's. The main Disney role model, Rachel Zegler, seems to be feeling the pressure. Rumors are circulating that Rachel isn't taking the competition well. According to reports, Rachel was incensed about the new Snow White being created, particularly when Brett made public remarks against her in many interviews. While Rachel's version of Snow White continues to face backlash even after fans got a sneak peek at the film, Brett wasn't afraid to voice her opinions about the controversies surrounding Rachel's portrayal. In fact, she was quite vocal about how her version stays true to the original while also modernizing in a way that doesn't offend audiences. Rachel reportedly said that her video was superior to Brett's, according to a source. However, Rachel hasn't publicly addressed the matter on social media or in interviews, maybe to prevent drawing further attention to herself. Some fans believe that Rachel's frustrations with Brett's version may even stem from the way the two are being talked about in the media very differently. While Rachel has been criticized for her comments about the original film and the changes made to her character, Brett has gained admiration for her respectful approach to the classic story. Whether or not the rumor is true, it's clear that Disney would avoid acknowledging the Daily Wire version at all costs, for Disney drawing more attention to a rival adaptation would only fuel the competition, and with Brett's version already receiving positive reviews. That's a risk they really can't afford to take. Even on the internet, Rachel has had to beg people to stop being mean to her because of how she portrayed Snow White, which many people think was a direct consequence of her own divisive remarks. As Rachel described how tough the response has been for her, she even became quite emotional and almost started crying.
But it's hard. And it's lonely. It's very lonely. I just know that if that loneliness can exist, so can other things, and I will be okay.
Rachel Zegler's involvement in Disney's upcoming Snow White film has been riddled with controversy, and the backlash surrounding her casting has only escalated after the release of the film's trailer. As if the initial criticism wasn't enough, Zegler has found herself embroiled in even more drama due to a tweet she posted shortly after the trailer dropped. The tweet, which read, "And always remember, free Palestine." appeared to take a political stance that ignited further outrage and divided the fanbase even more. What made the situation particularly incendiary was the reported tension between Zegler and her co-star Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen in the film. While Zegler's tweet didn't directly mention Gadot, many fans connected it to the well-known fact that the two actresses hold opposing views on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Gadot, who has publicly expressed support for Israel in the past, and Zegler, who has now openly voiced her support for Palestine, seem to represent two very different perspectives on this highly sensitive geopolitical issue. Reports suggest that the tension between the two stars has spilled over into their working relationship. While neither Zegler nor Gadot have directly addressed any interpersonal conflicts, their differing views have sparked rumors of on-set clashes. Fans are now speculating about how the two actresses will manage to promote the film together if they are, indeed, at odds over such a contentious issue. Zegler's tweet has further polarized fans, some of whom feel that political opinions should be kept separate from entertainment, while others admire her for using her platform to voice her beliefs. Those who support Zegler's stance argue that she is standing up for a humanitarian cause and showing bravery in doing so. However, critics of her comment feel that the tweet was both ill-timed and inappropriate, given the context of promoting a Disney movie. Many worry that the escalating political discourse surrounding Zegler and Gadot's opposing views may overshadow the film itself, diverting attention away from the movie and turning it into a battleground for broader political debates. The controversy has also raised concerns about the upcoming promotional tour for Snow White. With tensions reportedly high between the two lead actresses, fans are wondering if they'll be able to keep things professional or if their political differences will continue to impact their public appearances. As the film's release date draws nearer, Disney faces the challenge of navigating this public relations storm, as it could significantly affect how the film is received. Meanwhile, calls for Disney to re-evaluate the casting of Zegler have only grown louder. Some fans are suggesting that the ongoing drama surrounding Zegler's personal opinions and public statements could be detrimental to the film's success. Others, however, feel that these criticisms are unfair and that Zegler should not be penalized for expressing her views on social and political issues. As the release of Snow White approaches, all eyes will be on how Disney manages the fallout from these controversies and whether the tension between its lead actresses will impact the film's success. The film has become more than just an updated take on a classic fairy tale. It now finds itself at the center of larger cultural and political discussions, which could determine its fate at the box office. Boycott Disney's Snow White due to Gal Gadot's involvement, particularly from those upset by her pro-Israel stance. This sounds like even if fans are cheering for Rachel and her involvement in the movie, many might still refuse to give Disney any money because of her co-star's involvement. In contrast, Brett Cooper's version of Snow White seems to be thriving. As all signs point to a complete box office flop, fans of Brett are beginning to wonder if Disney has any chance of saving the film. Do you guys think the Daily Wire has a shot at overtaking Disney? Let me know down below, and don't forget to check out this other video for more. In the meantime, Brett is gaining favor with fans who appreciate her respectful yet modern take on the classic fairy tale.